that just stayed with me. You know, it was easy for me to do that. He used to come to high school and pop me in my chest all the time. You know, it's like a focus thing, just keeping me focused, staying on top of me. He actually called me like 2 days ago. I was on the golf course, just telling me how proud he was of me. You know, and so he helped me to start that foundation. I came from a terrible neighborhood, man. You know, crime, infested with crime and drugs and everything. You know, so I work with those same kids. I could relate to those kids. You know, I actually can relate to a bunch of kids because I live with a guardian angel who is my my high school secretary, and she's a white lady. You know, and I lived with her for 2 years. She's like a mother to me. You know, so I had a lot of people that was setting that foundation for me to get to where I'm at now, to help kids, to give back to kids, you know, and create that foundation. It was to help one, because I was the one that got help. That's how I started my foundation. It was Helping One Foundation. That's what we started off calling it. And it was just to create a ripple effect, so people will start to get back. So those kids have somebody like myself pour into their life, and they would go back and do it. You know, it's amazing to see the kids that we work with at Booker T, and they go back, you know, to their neighborhoods, and they're doing things now.
That's awesome. And speaking of the ripple effect, you know, most people know how difficult it is to make the leap, Derek, but to get your MBA while you're playing, you know, that's extraordinary. And, you know, one of the things. I've done a lot of business coaching in my years, one-on-one, but to reach millions of people like this guy, and now to have a sports agency where they're empowering athletes to figure things out off the field. And I think after, you know, running the most notable sports agency in the world, we tried to figure it out, right? But without the power of what this guy has, the internet, you know, we never could make a true difference. As someone who's, you know, on the field skill set, how has Vayner, AJ, Gary, Justin, etc., how have those guys shown you the skills that you have on the field? How can you utilize those off the field in the entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job of just kind of opening my eyes to like, what are the possibilities, right? So how your skill set on the field and the intangibles that you have, whether it be work ethic, discipline, you know, motivation. And so those things that you can apply to football can also apply to business, right? And so the reason why I went with Vayner Sports was I had been with the biggest agencies, you know, in the country, and they all did things the same way. And so what Vayner Sports brought to the table was a unique perspective, because they were so immersed in the business world that they just applied those, you know, those ethics and their approach to the sports world. And so, you know, I work all the time with AJ. You know, we're on the phone almost daily, and you know, I know they don't get paid for that, but I appreciate it. And so, I ask a million questions, right? So, I couldn't call my old agent and be like, hey, what do you think about this investment? You know, what's the cap table looking like? Would you agree with this percent of return? And so AJ brings that expertise to the table that's invaluable. So I really appreciate him for that.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, Ron. Your personality is bigger than life from the day that I met you. And I've only seen you on the field before that. You know, one of the things that's important today is building your own brand. And to that, what I've learned from guy next to us is your own frequency, right? To not give a shit about what anybody else thinks. This is you're a unique individual and a unique brand. How have you carried, you know, that brand from the football field and balance? Because you do a lot of stuff. How are you balancing everything?
I mean, playing football, you know, as a person who's done it for such a long time, I keep it, you know, it's first nature, and I'm always, you know, trying to figure out ways to evolve as a football player and a human in general. You know what I mean? And when you have the opportunity to do something you love away from football, you know what I mean, to have impact and have an impact and influence people and share energy with people and have influences and have fashion, that stuff to me is bigger, because then you get to connect with so much more people. You're not just connecting with a certain kind of, you know, realm of people. You're connecting outside of boundaries, and that's kind of what why me and Gary did together. You know, he has a crazy mind. He has.
This is my chance to unveil my master plan for Rob.
No.
When Rob retires, he's going to be the biggest superstar in WWE. I'm convinced. I got this whole thing down. And he's going to be the next giant man in wrestling. Vince, if you're watching, call me.
Sting. You know Sting, like from NWO? If y'all have pain, we'll paint all this. Us for
telling you.
That's all we can do it. And y'all can join, we can have like a big old. but it's just been really fun experience to be able to share arts and
He's an artist. All right. Maybe a little script for you, but every one of these athletes, and throughout years I've seen it in business, you know, me personally, how my childhood affected who I am today. I'm 51 years old, and I know that you're not as old as me, but I look back, I talk about my mom and get choked up. Your childhood was different than a lot of these guys and me, right? It was a different childhood. How did your childhood contribute to who you are today?
You know, it's funny, I'm looking at this kid right here with the Canada hoodie, and I just spoke to him in line. He's 17, he comes from some real adversity in both of his parents' situation, and it was just, back to what Ed's saying, it's just so crazy, right? Like, I'm an immigrant, and I came to the US, and I lived in a studio apartment with a lot of family members. Uncommon, but common, right? Like parents that are on drugs and have issues. Like, there's like 57 or 500 cliche stories that everybody can associate with until you go to the actual human that every one of us is. The amount of people that had a secretary in a high school that decided to be their next mom is much lower than people from a bad neighborhood who's an African-American male, right? So for me, like, you know, what I've come to realize is, yes, I came from less, but what really happened to me was I was raised by an all-time mother. So much so that if you ask me what's going on in this room right now, it's admiration, because what I'm really doing at this point is just taking what my mom put in me and scaling it, which is unbelievable amount of good intent and love, but with real fucking accountability, right? Like the place where it gets fucked up is like, you know, people are like, oh, you're gonna overlove your children, but then they can't fucking survive in the world because you created a fucking bubble baby because you gave them 8th place trophies and they're fucking pushover, right? And so, but you need to love. Like, you know, somebody who's not getting any love is gonna manifest that in a very negative way. So my unique situation was, there was plenty of adversity, which is, I think, foundational to success. But then I had a force in my life that told me I was the best until I proved that I wasn't, right? You're the best, but if you struck out 4 times in Little League, like, you suck. And I think that contradiction, and by the way, this is why I love sports. Unlike all these fake entrepreneurs in this room right now, and I'm gonna say it, and I'm not saying it for negativity, I'm saying it because it's super important. Unlike all the fake entrepreneurs in here, all us fake athletes got exposed. I can't make pretend that I'm a great athlete. It gets played out, we see it. Entrepreneurship, you put in your fucking title on Instagram and everybody believes you right now. When the economy flips, everyone's gonna get exposed. And so, what I love about sports is there's no fucking breathing room. It plays out. You can talk all about what you want, but until you hit the field, that's when it gets exposed. Unlike business and many other things which are hidden, because we don't actually know what's going on. And that's why I've always gravitated to it, because it's so fucking based on merit, period.
I don't applause there. Quick question for you, Gary.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to tell when an athlete like us aren't good enough, right?
Yeah.
But I get it all the time with entrepreneurs. What do you consider the criteria to say you're a real entrepreneur? What's that criteria?
I don't get to say you're a real, you know, one person's point of view of real entrepreneur, and I have it very clear in my mind, you always did it long before it was cool. Like I want to know the 22-year-old who was slinging blow pops, right, and mowing lawns and flipping Pokemon cards. Like, people are on now. Entrepreneurship is like athletes and rappers now. Like, I could walk through Atlanta and get love now because I'm an entrepreneur. That wasn't the case 15 years ago, which means everybody wants to come in. And so, you know, my criteria is you can't breathe if you're not doing it. But everybody's got different criteria. I can tell you there's a very big difference between being an entrepreneur and being a successful entrepreneur, right? And so I think what's important to me right now, the #1 fear I have in the macro, in this conversation, is that there's a lot of people flexing on social like they're winning, they're gonna lose. They've been telling everybody they've been winning, and now they gotta go get a job at fucking Waffle House, and they're not ready to deal with that scarlet letter, and I'm concerned how they're gonna deal with that. And so there's a lot of underlying depression, and even worse, that's about to mount, because people are faking it until they make it. Most aren't gonna make it. Unlike people that faked it till they made it in 1984, they were embarrassed amongst 4 or 5 people. Everybody here's gonna be embarrassed to everybody. You like that, huh?
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because people aren't talking about this. And I'm talking about it because there's a lot of pain that comes on the other side of that kind of framework. So I'm talking about it now, hopefully allowing people to be self-aware. This is why I'm talking about shit like sell your home and downsize, and go back, move in with your mom, like real shit. Like, how about saving some money? Like, I haven't heard the last time somebody say save money. So I think we have to, especially because we got 9.5 years. By the way, if you're not successful during this economy, you fucking suck. I'm being serious. I'm being serious. Under 30-year-olds are confused. You've only had a very fluffy, fake environment. The reason he just high-fived me is we've been through some shit. So, you know, what I'm concerned about is people don't understand. They don't understand to make money, not raise money. They don't understand to save. People are gonna get exposed, and I'm not saying that like I'm cool and I'm gonna be still winning. I'm saying that like check yourself, like be thoughtful, like understand history.
Yeah.
I think Gary's cool. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's really cool.
I was telling Gary, I was about to steal Gary's hat and sell it. You know, Gary's.
That's an entrepreneur.
No, I'm telling you, Gary's had like, you know, such an influence on me. I want to make sure I'm able to sell whatever I can sell. You know, whether it be, you know, I mean, whatever it is you like to wear, your favorite thing, just don't sell your body.
Bro, go get 13 sacks next year and I'll sell everything you ever fucking do.
Winning wins. One of the things that I've learned, Gary, too, is assumption. I lost over $100 million, so I know what it's like to be an entrepreneur, and that was the first time I learned a lesson about, you know, when the guy shining my shoes was giving me stock tips, I shouldn't be selling my stock, right? It's real simple. Second time around, I started looking at assumptions, right? It's not the decisions you make, it's assumptions that you're making to make those decisions. And you gotta make sure they're clear, so ask for help. That's why these videos that I watch still today, I'm picking up those assumptions that I thought I had. Ed, talking backwards now. Ed, every athlete, professional athlete especially, dies twice. And I know you just felt this, right? Every professional athlete dies twice. And that second, you know, that first death, no matter if you're successful or not, guys have plenty of money. I've seen that they go into depression. They can't take the emotional side because you have done something consistently. And this is what Gary's talking about. When the hard times hit and you've done something consistently since you've been 5, and then you have to stop because you're bankrupt. What are you doing now to transition from something you did every day of your life? Now you have to transition into a new life. What are you doing to make that transition?
I mean, I prepared myself for after football. When I left the University of Miami, first my goal was to graduate first before anything, and I did that. And it was preparing myself for after football, you know, because I came into football knowing that there was a saying that NFL stands for not for long. And when I heard that, I was like, I need to change that. My mentality switched quick. I need a need for longevity. So how can I get longevity in the NFL? And what I want to be doing after that, because it happens like that. It's a short-lived career. I had a 12-year career. The span of a football player was 3.5 to 4 years or something like that. You know, and it's a little skewed because of free agents and stuff and people going out the locker room daily. You know, I had guys, and we've seen guys go in and out of the league like that. I mean, day to day, Tuesday they're there, Wednesday they're gone. You know, so I saw this. You know, I was a first rounder. I was fortunate enough to be a first rounder. So I had, my first financial advisor was Jeff Rubin. And if you got some research on you got your iPhone, like I know, type in Jeff Rubin and see how much money he stole from just Miami athletes, guys that were my teammates. I fired Jeff Rubin my first year in the NFL. I caught it like that. like something ain't right. You know, I was pretty savvy with my money. You know, I saved money when I was in high school. I had a little green box I used to keep my money in. You know, my uncle and my brother used to get going out on the weekend, and you know, and I'm learning from that. Like, I don't want to be doing that on the weekend. I'm gonna be working. You know, they borrowing money from me. You're 20-something years old, 30 years old. You know, why you borrowing money from me? You know, and my dad laid that foundation, man. My dad worked really hard, you know, to provide for us. He moved me out of Shrewsbury, where I grew up at, you know, to another neighborhood. So I saw those steps being taken to be better. You know, so when I was in the NFL, I understood that I'm my company. You're your own company. Each one of us in here is a company. I'm my own company. So it never mattered what somebody else was doing. Any other player, I never compared myself to any other safety. I didn't care. I was telling that to the young guy over here that I wanted to be my best.
Hell yeah.
I didn't give a shit what somebody else was doing. It didn't matter to me what somebody else was doing. I wanted to be my absolute best. And if I was my absolute best, I was happy with that. You know, so I was preparing myself for after football, coaching guys in the league. I was known as a player's coach, a coach's player, you know, coaching the guys on the field for say, you know, so now I can go into coaching if I want to. I tell some of my ex-teammates the easiest way to make $100 million is to go coach football. You know, but I love the game. It wasn't about money. It's never about money for me. I give a shit about money. You know, my happiness and richness is here. You know, that's why I didn't give a shit what nobody else is doing. You know, I appreciate that. You know, so it was preparing yourself for life after football, knowing we know it's not gonna, that's why my man get this NBA. He knows it's not gonna last long. But you'll see guys that don't invest in themselves. I used to spend 60 to 100K on myself in season, in all season, to be better, to recover for the next year. You got guys buying rims. I don't want no fucking rims. I don't want the jury. You don't see me wearing jewelry. I got a Super Bowl championship and a national championship ring that I wear on a Jordan shoestring. You know, two things you'll die for, right? Some Jordans and a championship.
Yeah, so as you talk about building a company, everyone should invest in themselves. We talk about building a brand for that company. Gary, do you have any quick advice? You know, you talk about the fear of, you know, it struck core to me. I was like, you know, nobody had 200 followers before you started helping them. Now it's like, shit, I fuck up, everybody's gonna know it, not just my mom. You know, what advice would you give? You know, I believe in investing in yourself and building your own company, but building your own brand is different.
I think there's a couple things that stand out. Number one, self-awareness is everything. If you're confused of who you are, you're gonna be vulnerable. A lot of people that come into my ethos after a little while, they wanna be like me. And I always try to push, I'm like, if you wanna be like me, that means that you're uniquely going all in on who you know you are, right? Like, there's, you know, it's really funny. I don't know if you've noticed, I stay in a very, 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 very narrow lane. I could be talking about a lot of other stuff. Oftentimes people leave comments like, yo, Gary, are you gonna say the same shit? And sometimes I'll jump in and I'll be like, well, do you want me to just make up shit? Right? You've gotta stay within your zone, because once you talk, to build a brand, and so many people think about how do I build a personal brand, the only unique thing you have is you. This is why everybody's struggling on Instagram. Everyone's doing what everybody else is doing. So it all looks the same. You've only got your uniqueness, right? Everybody's got your ideas, your recipes, your concepts. Everybody's got those. It's execution. So first you've got to get unique as fuck and realize all your weird little shit is really the only strength you've got, because we cross over 90%. Then you have to understand where the attention is, right? That's how it plays. Do you know why we all know football? Because something called television came along. Because when it was a radio sport, people didn't give a fuck as much. Boxing and horse racing and baseball played for radio. Football played on TV, right? So now that we've got the internet, we need to know what plays there. That's where the next opportunities were. So for me, I stay true, and then I focus on where are people paying attention, not where do I want. I met a nice guy today, he's like, I got this website. I was like, don't go all in on that. People want to consume content on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and podcasts. You want to be selfish and get into your website, you're going to get caught because you're creating friction. I write articles and do videos and I do audio because I have no idea how you want to consume. If you want to consume me while you're walking the dog in a podcast, I've got to have that. I don't get to choose. I do everything for you. So at the end of the day, know what you're about. Don't make up stuff that you don't know. Your just experiences enough, documenting versus creating, just your life is already interesting enough. Your perspective, your hot take, your 2 cents. But then pay attention to where people are consuming. And once you respect the platform where people consume, and you are 100% predicated on actually bringing value to the other party, you win. By the way, that's why I know what Vayner Sports is going to do. This conversation, this is an advanced conversation, a thoughtful one, but what was rare was a thoughtful one when these 2 guys came up. Just a decade ago, 15 years ago, this was a rare conversation. These 20-year-old kids coming now, they're thoughtful. Entrepreneurship got cool, so they paid attention a little more, right? And so this next breed, kids are gonna be retiring earlier because they've got options. Like there's a lot of different things, so you have to build for the now. We jumped in because of passion, because of AJ, but we also jumped all the way in because we know exactly what it's about to look like, not what it used to be.
You know, the reason people love Gary is people buy on emotion for logical reasons, right? It's been a cornerstone of traditional sales. People buy on emotion for logical reasons. And when you listen to all 4 of these people, they're very emotional. They can't answer a question without emotion. And one of the ways that you see emotions portrayed is through what we do with good intent. Right? All of our moms taught us to be good people. There are probably 4 heroes between the 4 of you that are all the same. Your mom. Tell me about how your frequency, your true north, your trajectory is aimed towards your STEM foundation. And, giving is one thing, giving unconditionally is another. How does that change your brand in your life by doing good?
Just changing my perspective, right? So when I came into the league, I was very selfish, and I was thinking about me. I was a 21-year-old out of Georgia Tech, and thought I had life figured out. And quickly, I had a son at 22. I got married at 24, so I had to grow up very fast, and I started changing and shifting my perspective on the, what's going to be my impact, what's going to be my legacy, right? And so I come from a place, coastal Pennsylvania, not a lot of opportunity. And so for me, football was my way out. And so I was blessed enough to have an athletic skill set to get out of Coatesville, to go to a Division I school on a full ride and thankfully get drafted. But a lot of kids don't have that opportunity. And so if it's only sports, you're seeing kids get lost to this vicious cycle, right? And so I started, back in 2015, looking at ways, how I could, make an impact back in my high school outside of just having like a traditional football camp. And my buddy who works at Microsoft, he had this nonprofit called Athletech, and it combined the world of sports and technology. And when I was in DC for his camp, I noticed all the kids were gravitating towards the tech portion of the camp more than the actual football portion. And like what Gary said, is this new generation of kids that are exposed to this at a lot early age, and it's becoming more prevalent. And so with the STEM camp, it's basically me trying to be intentional on expounding the opportunities for kids. So like, if you're not good at football, but you want to learn how to code, like you should learn how to code. There's a lot of jobs for you that pay good for that. And everybody's not gonna go to school, So when I grew up, it was like, if you didn't go to college, you weren't successful. And so like Gary said, entrepreneurship is becoming sexy now. Like kids wanna be entrepreneurs. And so that's basically like the lane I've been in STEM and entrepreneurship, and trying to increase the opportunities for kids who usually don't see them.
All right, Rob, your passion is also music, and there's a ton of opportunity in entrepreneurship and music. How are you utilizing that spirit of excellence that you have? The top level, I call it a higher vibration that all these guys have, right? They're aware of more, right? We have a greater awareness when we vibrate faster. There's nothing more that aligns with vibration than music. How are you utilizing your music today to figure out the future of your career?
Well, music's such inspiration to me, I've been inspired, by so many musicians, and I want to use the platform I have, with football, with music, to connect with as many people I connect with, and share energy, and raise people's vibrations, just like you're saying, higher vibrations, and helping people get to those higher vibrations, through interactions and coexisting, and being together. Oh, my bad. Oh, geez. Okay, and and just being able to, coexist and really use that and build that and use music to to play and let people experience those moments in time, because that's really what it comes down to. You know what I mean? How people can be, free in moments, you know what I mean, and feel that, unconditional love, and feel that divine, love, and that's what it's about me, just being able to connect, with as many people as you can connect to in this world, and just having guys like this around me who've done it, and they've lived it, and they've invested, and they've had time. So, seeing that is just more of a focal point for me to keep using music and growing and using art and trying to connect people, trying to help, maybe, expand, because that's what, that's what it's about at the end of the day, expanding, yourself internally, psychologically too. So.
That's incredible. And inspiration is so important in everything that we do, right? I call it in spirit, right? You're connected to that which fires you up. And the most common question entrepreneurs give me, Gary, is, dude, how do you stay inspired every day? Like, your lives suck sometimes, right? Ed, some days you have bad days, good days, it wasn't a perfect life. But the difference between what I see in you is that although things are a setback maybe, it becomes a setup because you're inspired. Gary, how do you, number one, do you stay inspired? So, I watch you every day. And then two, how can you inspire other people the same way?
I'll go to number 2 first. I think the easiest way to inspire is to execute and let your actions speak. I mean, people know. Like, there's people play parts, and then there's people that execute. You can't hide, right? Like, everybody around you can make a video too. So execution, I think, is how you actually inspire. The first one's super simple. The reason so many entrepreneurs roll up on me and say things like, how do you stay with it all the time? I'm like, because I'm an entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, you love the fucking game. When you really love your shit, I don't like going to the gym, right? Like I don't like that. I don't like most things. But my hobby is building businesses. As my mom's really reminded me of something, and then my friend Robbie Turnick, he's like, yo, you do know that 80% of our summers were jobs? From 6, 7, 8 years old, I thought it was fun to wash somebody's car for $5 instead of doing something else. And lemonade stand and this, it was in me. Of course I'm always into it. It's my hobby. It's what I would do when I don't have anything else to do. I want to do business shit, right? And the problem is, in entrepreneurship currently, 80% of people are doing it for the money. If you're gonna do this for money, it's gonna suck, because it's hard. Guys, I always say this, especially in this kind of context, I think everyone's very, very, very confused. In America, one of the richest countries in the world, the bottom of the 1% earners, if you are the 1%, you make $440,000 a year. If you make $440,000 a year, you're in the 1%. But people don't contextualize it. Everybody thinks making $1 million a year is just the beginning, right? We are completely confused by that genre and that framework. To me, it's so, you saying how do you stay inspired or be in it is literally like asking somebody, how do you breathe oxygen? I don't know anything else. And for me, the only thing I'm willing to dwell on is if 15 people in the world are sick or dying. Otherwise, it's fixable.
You made many transitions and pivots in your career. When we met, you were starting a sports agency. And I had a sports agency, and it didn't make me happy, so I pivoted myself and figured out how I could do things differently. How did Vayner Sports come to fruition?
It's funny, I saw the picture on the flight down here. I wore a Walter Powell jersey to a Jets game, and a picture was taken. Mook Williams saw it, there's Mook, saw it, DM'd me. He's like, the fuck are you doing with a Walter Powell jersey? We went back and forth, and then 4, 5, 6 months later, he DM'd me when I was in Miami on business, and I called him and he goes, hey, there might be an opportunity for you to invest in our agency. Are you interested? And I said yes, mainly because I know what my long-term ambitions are, and it wasn't about short-term ROI. I didn't really, wanted to get a sense, could we afford it, knowing that AJ would be involved. AJ was still working at VaynerMedia at that point. Several months later, AJ walks in, he's like, I want to make a transition in my career. I don't want to do the VaynerMedia thing anymore. after a little bit of thinking, he's like, I want to get into the sports thing. You know, when AJ was a kid, he wanted to be a sports agent, very kind of like classic thing that a lot of kids wanted to be that couldn't play, right? And so we just went at it, and it was just kind of a whole lot of serendipity, you know? Just a whole lot of serendipity, but really not really, right? Like when you actually know what you're up to and you know what your ambition is, like I've always known, what's up, Walt? I have always known that like I want to try to buy the New York Jets. And I really think I'm going to, and when I do, I want to be disproportionately the best owner towards the players, the same way I feel like I'm a great boss for VaynerMedia, because that's the asset. And so I'm excited. I'm excited that I'm going to have 20, 30 years of sports representation under my belt for that moment when I take the next step. And by the way, you collect people along the way, right? People become advisors, right? Kyle might be my GM one day when he's older. You know, like so, like you go through this journey, and so I'm super excited about it. I think it'll make a hell of a lot of sense when it's all wrapped up in a bow.
So make a great movie.
That's the plan. Try to win some fucking Oscars around here.
All right, last round of questions. I'll start at. We'll come this way. It's one of my favorite questions. What I believe allows people to manifest or attract or allow what they want is to put faith into something. And the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is they put faith into the wrong thing. They put faith into outcomes, into money, into the wrong people, assumptions. I'd like each of you to tell me as we go down the line, what do you put your faith in?
Good Lord first, and just having faith, you know, that I'm gonna be successful in what I do. I trust myself, you know. I have confidence in what I'm doing, you know, and I don't let anybody take me away from that. You know, like I said, it's not about what other people's doing. It's about what I want to do and what makes me happy. You know, I'm gonna do what makes me happy. You know, and I'm enjoying building a brand of cigars because I enjoy smoking cigars. You know what I'm saying? So, and I want to do it my way. You know, I have a company I'm working with, and they're trying to force me to do something I don't want to do. Like, I'm not doing that. You know, so it's just being happy, man. Enjoying yourself, enjoying the ones around you. You know, something that came to me when Gary was talking is like the people you surround yourself with. More importantly, you know, I mean, I still work with athletes. I'm big in, obviously, with football. You know, but all sports, and even in business, who you surround yourself with matters. You know, your friends, your peers. You know, I talk to kids about this because I still do a lot of mentoring. Like, who are you surrounding yourself with? You know, as the old saying, you show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. That's the same thing in business. You're not going to build your business. I had a chance to visit Gary's office in New York, and you see everybody that they're enjoying themselves, man. They're having a good time. And it reminded me of being in the cigar factory when I'm watching all the rollers roll cigars, and they in there listening to the music, and they got the guy who was reading the newspaper, you know, and everybody's smoking a cigar. That shit, man, me get down here and roll me a cigar. You know, so it's really who you surround yourself with. I wouldn't be up for the Hall of Fame if it wasn't for my mom and my dad. My brothers coming in. I'm getting a little emotional, but them coming in, you know, tomorrow and enjoying that with me. It's the people that are close to you, the ones that truly know you, not the people on Twitter and Instagram, you know, as Gary's saying. You know what I'm saying? It's the ones that really know you, you know. So it's, for me, it's your environment, the people you surround yourself with. You know, that makes a difference at the end of the day.
There it is. How my girls are watching. Awesome.
Yeah, I would definitely echo a lot of what Ed just said. You know, first and foremost, I put my faith in my relationship with God. That's really been an anchor for me. It's helped me navigate adverse situations and deal with life. And so, you know, segueing into just my faith in myself and the people that are around me. And so it's, if I have a unrelenting faith in myself and belief in myself, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. I'm not going to be on IG comparing myself to somebody else who has more followers than me or is doing something that's, you know, very trendy or whatnot. So it's being self-aware and knowing, you know, that you have the ability and believing in yourself that you can get it done, and then investing in your network and team around you, having faith in them that they can execute and they can help build you up. So those two things is what I put my faith in.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek.
believe in the clouds. It's beautiful, you know what I mean? Because the sun, when the sun hits the clouds and it comes in, it's like the most serene feeling. So when I'm outside, it feels amazing just to be out there. Guys in football and everything. Let me be honest. I do believe in a higher power, you know what I mean? And I do believe that there's a, you know, we're connected as a human race in a frequency, you know what I mean, regardless of whatever your religion is, whatever your color, if you're a Bohemian, if you're a hippie, if you're a white, if you're a black, if you're purple, whatever you are, we're all the same people, and at the end of the day, we should, You're gonna make a big one like me and yeah, but seriously. I mean, just, you know, showing love at the end of the day is what I feel like, you know, my faith is in, because at the end of the day, that's how you can connect with the most people and live your life that way, you know what I mean? And always stay true to, you know, what you believe in and your point of what you understand, that things you've been through that's got you through those, you know, gritty, you know, times and you know, just sticking to a code and understanding something way bigger than you at all times, you know what I mean?
I'm serious. Faith in the at-bat. For me, it's the at-bat. I think that we are stunningly lacking the gratitude of actually being a human being in the first place. There's nothing you'll ever accomplish that is remotely more remarkable than that you actually were a human being. The math is so absurd. I'm so driven by fucking gratitude. I can't believe I have a life. You could have been a fucking tree. I'm being dead serious. You could have been a tree. Like I just wish people understood. One of the things I tell people all the time is, you know, right now we're living through an amazing era of putting youth on a pedestal because of technology, right? These last 10, 15 years is like the 20-year-old is on, right? Like when I'm 43, when you were 20 and you went into a business, you did dumb shit for 10 years, like intern and like get the coffee. Now kids come into businesses and like they're put on a pedestal because they understand technology. So right now in our society, the last 10, 15 years, we've put youth on a pedestal. I'm completely convinced that the counter to this and what I'm watching is that we're gonna put wisdom and age and experience on a pedestal next. So I think for all the 75 to 99-year-olds out there, your era's next. And I'm being serious about this. I would tell you the amount of people here that would massively benefit from going and volunteering for 5 hours at a retirement home and having 2 meaningful conversations with somebody 80 or older that is not somebody you're related to. And if you understood and listened and watched their energy, you would understand how lucky we are to have our years ahead of us, how much you don't want to live life based on you need to be in a place where you don't regret the things you didn't do, you know, and I just think we lack perspective. And I think we talk a lot about privilege of, like, right now, thank God, race and gender, and we're having that conversation. We're not having that conversation around ageism, right? Like, we're finally starting to have some decent level of a conversation of trying to have empathy for different backgrounds, races, things of that nature. But I'm telling you, the biggest lack of perspective in this room is how young everybody in this room is. People are anxious and insecure because they haven't accomplished something, and they haven't even gotten out of the fucking first quarter. So I highly recommend you realize that you've got a fuckload of years in front of you, and slow it the fuck down. Thank you.
Okay, the message for me is, we give meaning to everything we see, and I hope that you guys see this and give it the right meaning for you, so you can be yourself, make yourself what you want to be. So give everything the right meaning. You give meaning to everything you see. So let's hear it for Ed, Derek, Rob, and then starting over here.
That was dope, guys. Got all of it recorded, so I'll do all the fucking shit that I gotta do and get you that content.
Sounds familiar.
shit recorded. And, yeah, guys.
That sounds really cool.
My buddy missed it. Enrico, you missed it, bro. Yo, Enrico, I got everything recorded, bro. Don't worry, I'll take those minutes. Sorry about that. They didn't let me use it. So, everyone watching Blind Logic, go find the people you're supposed to find and connect. So that's the crazy thing is that David guy, I had no idea. Let me pause my